Hello, everyone. Let's see, I think my audio's up just a little high. Um, yeah, hello. Let's just get this out of the way. First and foremost, I am probably going to be a little bit more scatterbrained today than usual. I know that's hard to believe. But I think last Sunday when we got together, I had been without water for a couple of days. I'm still without water. So, yeah, it's been a really rough week here at my house, and on top of that, I'm getting a cold. Thankfully, that's it, and it's not terrible. But if I'm a little sniffy, I apologize. I'm gonna try and keep it to a bare minimum. But yeah, so all of that means that Jane's brain is not fully wired. And speaking of wired, good grief, seriously, this has been a week, you guys. Like, I have to laugh or I'll cry. Uh, Hopefully, this is not an indication of what the rest of the year is going to be. So, a few days ago, less than a week ago, I was in here, I was painting or something. No, it was before the new year because I haven't painted since my water went out. I was painting. This room I've told you before is it's an add-on, so there's no vents in here. There's no heating, cooling. The only heat and cooling that gets in through here comes in through that door from the main part of the house. And so in the winter, I have to use a space heater. It gets really, really cold in here. Well, my space heater started smelling like it was burning. So I went and bought a new space heater, plugged that bad boy in. 20 minutes later, that one smelled like it was burning. Come to realize it is the outlets in my room that are so old that plugs don't really even stay in them anymore. So I almost burned my house down the other day. So tomorrow I get to replace outlets in here. So anyway, yeah, but there was no way I was going to miss today. I need this. I need this a lot. So, thank you. I'm not telling you all that to try and garner sympathy or anything. It's just so you understand why I am a catastrophe. And I look like I haven't showered for a month and a half. I swear it hasn't been that long. Um, my water broke. It's true. It is true. Thankfully, it's not an 18-year fix for that. Um, oh, drilling a well, that sounds awful. Okay, but enough about me. Let's just do a quick, let's just do a quick refresher on what we talked about last week. So, last week we just kind of talked about lines and mark making, the different types of lines that you can make, what they're good for, briefly. And then I had you guys do some practices of the same things. So, the type of lines we have weighted lines, where they get fatter or skinnier. It can help describe weight or shadow or even like movement, etc. Broken lines. Broken lines are a little bit softer, they're a little bit less defined. Implied lines. So that's anything that creates a visual line but was not an intentionally like drawn line. Gesture lines, which helps you describe movement and energy. Cross contour lines, which help you describe volume. And then just plain old contour lines, the outline to pretty much anything. We also talked about the four factors that affect your line and how your line ends up reading. And those four factors, let me get back to my paper here. We have, first of all, tool. Are you using paint, charcoal, crayon, pencil, marker, etc.? The angle at which you hold that implement, remember all of these lines were done with uh, this is the same implement, this is the same implement. How fast you make them, what kind of pressure you use. So hopefully you guys got an opportunity to see in your homework a couple of ways that you can mix them together. So like let's use speed and really light pressure and broken lines and see what kind of a feeling you get, or heavy pressure and a really jagged angle to get implied lines or whatever. The thing with last week was we primarily used drawing implements, and we talked about this from that point of view. Hello, Annie. And anybody else I missed. I tried to say hi to everybody. Um, see, my brain just shut off. What was I even saying? Oh, yeah. We came at this from a drawing point of view, and that was really just so we could talk about line by itself without muddying the waters and trying to talk about painting as well. But we all primarily paint. So we need to discuss how line, the implications of line, the types of lines, the way we use them in painting, because I think that there is a little bit of a misconception in that line is a deliberately drawn literal line. And that's not the case, especially in painting. So today, all I have is black and white, and that's simply because I just want to focus on the marks that we're making. I'm not focusing on value or color or even proportion, any of that. And so I don't want you guys focusing on any of that either. Excuse me, let me get my notes up here. All right. So when you're painting, you don't typically rely on drawing lines in the same way as somebody who is drawing or illustrating something. So, for example, here I was just quickly dashing off my bottle of matte medium that was sitting right here next to me. If you were drawing, like let's say you're an illustrator, you might start similar to this, hopefully much better looking, but you might start like that. But if you're painting it, you're not really going to come in for the most part and draw these lines, especially the contour lines and stuff. So we're going to talk about how all of this applies to painters. Okay, so first we're going to start with structure because that's really the first step in any painting, right? Do I have an abandoned painting around here somewhere? Probably. Anyway, you know how I like scribble in my elements. So that would be structure. Um, and everybody's structure is different. My structure happens to be kind of a combination of loose gestural marks, um, broken lines, soft lines, etc. So, there it is. Okay. And I'm just going to use just a round brush. Nothing fancy. Hello, Paul. Sorry, Joe. Hello, Joe. Welcome. I need a paper towel. All I have at hand is a tissue. That doesn't work. One sec. Okay. Um, so when we're talking about structure, this is kind of where you're setting the theme for, sorry, I can't get this lid off. That's where you're kind of setting the theme and the tone and the movement and the energy and everything for your image. Let's make it a little bit. Just a little bit of black. I was going to use black and white gesso because for some reason that's kind of my go-to. I don't know why. But I can't find my white gesso. I don't know why. I told you this week has been rough. I can't even open a tube of paint without destroying everything. Okay. So, sorry, that was probably really loud. I apologize. Some black paint, some white paint. And we're going to decide first and foremost, how you're going to do the structure. I'm going to paint a rock. In fact, I'm just going to give you a quick glance at it. I'm going to paint this rock. So we're going to pretend like that's what I really want to do. So if I'm going to get ready to paint this rock, I'm going to get my paint. Doesn't matter what color, what value, none of that matters. Just getting some paint you can see. And you can approach this a couple different ways. Actually, you could approach it a bajillion ways. I'm going to show you how I would approach it. First, my structure is just going to be kind of the basic shape of it. And you can come in and say, okay, here's the outline. These are my contour lines. But that is super stiff. So, since I've already done that, I'm going to come in instead and use these quick. These are very gestural. They're broken. They are a little more energetic than the rock actually is, if that makes sense. The rock is very static. It just sits there. And this feels just a little bit more energetic than that because I'm using the quick broken lines. And then maybe we have like the shadow is over here. And the shadow feels a little bit more gestural as well. So that would kind of be my structure. If I want to really focus on giving it like contour, because this looks kind of flat. Remember, the way you do your marks is going to dictate, it's going to start to dictate the shape and the movement of your elements. So I never want you to approach a painting and be like, oh, this part doesn't matter because it's going to all be covered up. So I can fill in my rock. Since I know I'm going to cover all this up, I'm just going to fill in my rock like this. Because what this does is it flattens the rock out. That's going to look flat. So instead, we're going to use some contour lines. And not in that super rough way like we did on the illustration. But I know that my rock kind of moves this way. So that's shaped that way a bit more. Down here, I'm going to say the rock has a bit of a bulge. Just a little bit of more energy. And then it's going to feel a little bit more voluminous, I guess. Less like a flat smashed potato. You could even contour it this way. You can change that. Whatever. So basically, that's going to be structure. And remember what I said last week. We are not in the business in these lessons of making good art. We are not trying to make anything look perfect or even good. When you do your homework, because next week is our critique week for our art family members, what I'm going to be looking for in your homework is that you understand the concepts that we are talking about. So if you show up with this, you understand the concepts. You get a passing grade. There's not actually any grades. Okay. Now, movement. We do use line to describe movement in painting as well. Annie recently did a painting. I'm sure many of you did. That's just the one that popped into my head. Annie recently did a painting where she described movement through the way she used marks on her brush. So, let's say you're painting a sky with some clouds, okay? If you come in here and you say, here's my sky, it's just all one color because it's just all one color. Or the popular, this is how everybody starts painting skies. Back and forth, and just blends it back and forth. That's going to look really flat. Even if you come in here with your clouds and get some fuzzy clouds, your sky is still going to feel flat. So instead, we're going to focus on movement and the marks that we make. If you are let's think of it this way. If you're trying to describe something that, anyway, it'll come. So instead, I'm going to paint the sky. I'm going to paint the sky like this. Look at that movement. Even though it's all a solid color, it's got more movement and more energy. And then when I come in with my clouds, these clouds also look a little static. I mean, they're not quite so bad as it's very static movement. But if we come in with our clouds and the energy of those lines is going to say this is a much windy, it's a much windy, wow. This is a windy day. This is a stormy sky. So you have to use your movement with intention. Think about it like this. We're going to paint a person. We're going to make two paintings of the same person. One of them is a business headshot. Okay, they're an attorney and they need a business headshot. So you're going to paint that for them. When you are presenting like a business persona, somebody who is serious, they are important, they're straightforward, they are focused. The background doesn't matter because it is the person that is the focus of the image. You're going to use very crisp lines. You're going to be very precise. So as you come in and you paint that person, the edge of their face is probably going to be very crisp because you want to make sure that it does not get lost in the background. You're going to use very deliberate, very precise marks. But let's say now that you are painting a picture of that exact same person from a photo taken while they were on vacation at the beach. And this person is lying in the sand and they're smiling, and it's very clear that they are in the middle of just enjoying themselves, right? Whether they're moving or not. So if you come in and you paint that person lying on the sand with these very crisp, deliberate marks, that person is going to feel very stiff. They are going to be lying on the sand, kind of like that. Even if your drawing is just right. When instead, you might want to say, this person is relaxed. So relax your painting. You know, you're not relaxed if you're painting like this, but that person's relaxed, so we're going to relax our brushwork. We're going to let the edge of that person break a little bit. Because if they're on the beach, they might be covered in sand. The beach is part of the image, so you don't want this hard delineation between the person and the surroundings around them. So, what I'm getting at here is when you are painting something, think about the energy that you want to bring to it. And make sure that your energy as an artist, the tools you're using, the way you're using them, kind of matches that. If we're painting someone who, that same person, let's say they are having my week and they are just frazzled and chaotic, then we might come in and describe that energy rather than focusing on, their sad face. We might describe their energy instead with, just some super, this is actually a self portrait. That's what I look like right now. We might use much more gestural and chaotic brushwork to describe how that person is feeling. So, all of that is to say, contour lines are much more for drawing, I believe. We're going to focus on everything else. We're going to let contour lines be implied. And I'm just like rattling off at you guys. If you have questions, if I'm being confusing, you need clarification, whatever, let me know. Krista says gesture is what is bringing life to them. Absolutely. And we're going to come back to that. We're going to spend a bit of time on that, like the gesture and the life and everything. It's actually part of your homework. So, movement is the next part, and we kind of talked about it through here. With the sky. Oh yeah, we already did all of that. So, okay. So line as edge. We kind of talked about that in here too. So when we're painters, we're not necessarily painting, outlines all the time, but we are painting edge. Like I said here, this is like the edge of a person's face. This is a very crisp edge. This person is the subject of the image. Nothing else in the image is important. Where here, it's much more broken. This is the edge line that we have. So even though it's not contouring, it still creates an edge. We have soft edges, which I am a very soft edge person. I like soft edges in my paintings, sometimes way too much. I do have a little bit of a discomfort with hard edges. So I don't know if you can tell in here, for example, there are really no hard edges. So I use a lot of very soft and broken edges. Hard marks are ones that just kind of stop abruptly. I do have a little bit of that in the branches. Those would be a little bit harder. A broken edge. A broken edge is similar to a soft edge, and there's a lot of overlap there. But a broken edge is one where, let's see, I will give you a side by side, the difference between a broken and a soft edge. So a soft edge might be something like this. Don't look at this edge. That's a hard edge. But that is a soft edge. That's a very, very soft line. Broken, this could be, let's see, let me get a little bit of that, a little bit of the water off of my brush. This is a broken line. It's a very, very broken line. A broken line could be like that. So that's the difference between broken and soft. Soft, more of a blur. And let's see. Yeah, so we have the soft edge, hard edge, and the broken edge. So the edges are around everything. Every element is going to have an edge. So everything on this painting has edges. There's like bushes or whatever here. The edge where they meet the sky is soft and kind of broken. It's also very soft here where it meets the ground. I would say this is a line. It definitely moves in this direction, even though there's not really a specific line in there. It's the marks that I made that create that visual line in your mind, I guess. The edges where I wanted to call a little bit more attention to, I almost tried to pinch and zoom on here. Can you even believe it? Little interesting spots like this. See, that's a pretty hard edge right there. And here, those are some hard edges because I wanted to, and over here, a little bit harder, because I wanted to draw you into that area. Remember that your hard edges are what kind of creates interest and tells your viewer where to look. Excuse me. Texture. We already kind of talked about texture a bit in the sky, but I want you to just kind of experiment with your tools of choice as well as some extra ones to see what kind of texture you can get. In fact, where is it? Last year, before the year ended, I was doing a lot of painting and really kind of experimenting. And this is something I want to do with you guys. We're going to do this. We're going to do this soon. But I needed something that I could scrub with that gave me a very organic texture. I didn't want a brush that had any amount of, that would leave any amount of tool marks like, oh, I can tell I used a filbert here or a round or whatever. So what I did was I took a junky old Artist Loft brush and I made it into a tool that I actually want to use. So I don't know if you can tell if I flip it like that. See those little shorties? See all those shorties? I scrubbed the life out of this brush on a piece of super hard sandpaper. I like hit it with my razor blade and just like flew bristles off everywhere. It had a very, very specific shape, and now it's just much more gloppy. So I tell you that because we want texture to be something that we think of. And if you are always reaching for a precision tool, you have to work a little bit harder for texture sometimes. So I have my ratty brush here. Let's see what kind of textures we can get. So I'm going to use, let's see, a dry brush. We're going to start with that. So I'm going to just dry that off. It's got some paint on it, but not a ton of paint. See, there's not much paint on there. There's no globs of paint. The brush is pretty dry. And this is the kind of texture that I can get with that. Very broken lines. That would be my dry brush texture. So if I load up with a bit of paint and I do a fast stroke, it's very broken. It's got a nice kind of a jaggedy, organic start and end. I'm going to load up the brush pretty much the same way as I did just there. And I'm going to do it slow and deliberately. It's much straighter, there's much less energy, and it's much more solid. Instant tree bark, 100%. Absolutely. And grasses. My favorite way to do grasses, you guys, I think most of you probably know I've done it for a long time and I've done it in videos and stuff, but in case you haven't seen it or you've never seen it on a piece of paper where you can see it, I like to use my long liner brush. Get some paint on that bad boy. It can be nice and thick. It can be a little thinner, whatever you like. I hold it completely sideways. See that? Just flat. And flip up. Really nice way to get little bits of grasses or even like shading in a tree if you don't want to come in and make brush marks, like tool marks. Just a little bit of a side swipe with my long liner. So yeah, I want you to experiment with different brushes. I want you to think beyond the tip of the brush. You might look at a long liner and think that's all it's got, but it's not. If you have garbage brushes, set them aside. We'll do something fun with those soon. Let's see. I have some other. Oh yeah, like tapping. So we also tend to think about if we're going to use a brush stroke, we have to have like a stroke, a stroke, a stroke. You know, we have to use brush strokes. But what if we don't? What if we use brush stabs or taps? Or what if we focus on using the part of the brush that's coming out of the ferrule instead of the tip of the brush? Like every tool can give you a million type of marks depending on how you use it, how you load it, how much water is in the brush, etc. Let's see. So I kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but your brush strokes can carry emotion. Okay. And I think that we should consider that emotion when we're painting. Don't come to something and just be like, I'm just going to fill this. This is just all going to be green right here, which is perfectly fine. We're not talking about color. I'm not saying you got to vary your color or anything. But don't just come here and say, well, this is just green. And I'm going to have like some little zigzaggy grasses on it later. But right now the green can just be green. It doesn't need to have any kind of texture or anything. So I'm going to do that real quick. I have a crayon. We're going to paint some black grass. There's actually a group called Black Grass. I've heard some of their music and I kind of like it. But anyway, so let's always carry energy with everything we do. So if I'm going to do my grass like this is the boring part that's just all green. And then I think I'm going to come and add the texture to it later. So that doesn't matter. And I know we just kind of did this, didn't we, with the clouds? That's all right. We're doing it again. It's important. And then later you come in and start trying to flick grasses on it, but you're still going to contend with those back and forth strokes. So instead, how about we try kind of like some, yeah, that'll be a nice base for some grasses. Um, yeah, I just totally went off on something else. That's not what I wanted to talk about. Thanks for being patient with me, guys. I promise, although I've said it now, haven't I? I promise next week I will not be quite so out of my mind. We're talking about emotion right now. So, the number one way to convey emotion is through your brush work. So, if you are painting something, let's say a mug, just a coffee mug, and you are feeling kind of tightened up, you're unsure, you're not real confident, then your mug is going to look like that. So if I'm not confident and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to hold my brush like that. And I'm going to start like this. And my lines are kind of wobbly because I'm not real confident in what I'm doing. I don't have a lot of, oops, I made a mistake there. That's going to look like you're not confident because you're not. If you're hesitant, like you want to paint the mug, but oh my gosh, you're just so scared, you might come in here and try and make the lightest marks you can in case you want to get rid of something. Your mug is going to feel kind of hesitant. But if you're confident and maybe you're feeling kind of playful and you want your mug to feel a little playful, and you come in and you're like, okay, let's just feeling some silliness or whatever, your mug is going to be a little bit more energetic, um, and can look more playful. So, really pay attention to the way you're approaching it, as well as the emotion you're trying to get across. If you are intending to paint something like a landscape and you're so focused on having these crisp edges or having um, things rendered perfectly, then there's not a lot of room for thinking about the emotion that you want somebody to have. I don't think that it's enough to have like a, let's just say, a little flat green land with a tree in the middle and everything is very stiff. You've used beautiful colors. Your shading might be great, whatever. But you've focused so hard on rendering things correctly that it's just stiff. There's no emotion to it. But what if you want that tree to feel like it's standing, I'm going to get dark because I'm dark, you guys know me. That tree is standing on in a cemetery next to the grave of someone you lost too soon. You want to convey that. You want to convey that emotion that you are having about that scene. And maybe in that case, instead of coming here and saying, okay, my stiff tree that I want to be perfect, here's my ground, and here's my tree. Pretend like this looks exactly like a tree in a photo that you're trying to paint, okay? Looks just like it, and the branches come up like this. Maybe there's some foliage on it or whatever, and it's kind of shaped like that. So this doesn't say much. It says tree. But like I said, if we want to inject that feeling that we have about that place and that tree, think about, how does that make you feel? It makes me feel sad. And when I feel sad, maybe I know that I kind of hunch over a little bit. So maybe that's what my tree needs, is to kind of feel sad. Um, I'm probably crying if I'm looking at this, and that's going to blur my vision. And so the tree might not be perfectly rendered with these sharp, crisp edges, because as a sad person looking at it, I'm not seeing it that way. So we might instead have our broken ground. I'm going to wind sweep it a little bit because, right, that weather is a perfect way to describe emotion. Turbulent winds feel like inner turmoil. And my tree, regardless of whether I'm painting a real tree and it really looks like this, I'm probably going to give it just a little bit more of a mood. I'm going to arc it just a little bit because that makes it feel kind of, you know, hunched. Notice how I'm using my brush and I'm using the edge. I'm making very, very broken lines. It's hard to paint on here. I would typically have much softer lines, not just broken lines, but on this paper it's really hard. Um, so you might come through like this and just really put your feelings into it rather than, maybe it has some foliage, but I don't want to focus on the foliage because foliage feels like life and I'm not trying to describe life. So foliage is almost used like an afterthought. It's there, but I'm focusing on the bare parts of the tree because that gives the mood that I want. And that's all from the different marks that we've been learning how to make, the way you use your tool, the emotion that you want to impart on the image. Emotion comes from you, and primarily, I'm going to say primarily from the marks that you make and the way you use your tools, because you can have something painted in black and white that is very uplifting. It's not about the color or the value. Likewise, you can have something that's painted very vibrant, very colorful, and very pretty, that feels very depressing, that feels chaotic or scary, very high energy. And all of that is going to come from your brush marks, the way you're using your tools. So that's basically how you loosen up. So all the times I'm telling you guys, you gotta loosen up. You gotta loosen up. I think that if you focus on the different types of brush marks that we can make, the things that affect those brush marks, the emotion that you are feeling, as well as the emotion that you want to convey, if we can learn to focus on those things rather than just trying to render something perfectly, we will become instantly looser, more expressive painters. And it does take practice, but now you've got the tools, you know how to be loose rather than just, I don't know, what is being a loose painter mean? Does it mean I just come in here and go, I don't care. This is gonna be a face. I'm doing it loose, and nobody can tell that it's a face. Like, there's not a lot of intention there outside of just making gestural marks. But find emotion, find meaning in those marks, and I think that you will automatically start to become a little bit more gestural, a little bit looser. Always follow the contour of your subject or the contour that you want to impart on it. Um, Let's see. So we're gonna do just a couple. What time is it? Yeah, we're just gonna do a couple of guided exercises. So I hope you guys have something with you. Hopefully paint. If not, whatever you have is fine. And then I do have some homework for you, but the homework's going to be fun. It's not going to just be fill a page with lines like last week, which was necessary. If you haven't done that yet, please do it. I know it feels like I just put you in a baby stroller when you're fully capable of running a marathon, but I promise that there's value there and don't skip it. And several of you did that homework and posted it in Discord, and I am so proud of all of you. Thank you for doing that. But this week's homework is going to be fun. Okay, so who is doing the exercises with me? I want you to tell me in chat. And if you're not, that's fine. I'm not going to yell at you or single you out or anything. How many do we have? 4. Okay, there's 4. So I'm going to mark this off in 4s. You guys tell me if you are or if you're not participating at this moment. And I know that a lot of my examples with this stuff is like so chaotic and like really bad looking. It's because I'm just trying to do it quickly for demonstration purposes so you don't have to approach everything like just, you know, just doing that for time's sake. Donna, Eileen, Krista, Donna. Oh, same Donna. And Kara. Excellent. Okay, so we want 4 separate sheets or squares or whatever. These are going to be super, super easy. So first we're going to describe an object. Let's just say a coffee mug. I don't know why I keep going back to a coffee mug. But we are not going to draw the contour of the coffee mug. So remember, the contour is the outside lines. Because in painting, we don't really do that much. Instead, we are going to draw the coffee mug using nothing but contour lines. Okay? So, coffee mug with just the contour lines is going to be like, let's see. And the handle, I know it's tempting to do the handle just like that because that's what it's shaped like, but if you think about a coffee mug handle, it's a very rounded thing. And so if I just do a mark like that, that's very flat. So I'm going to contour the handle as well. And I'm using this monster brush and doing it really quick, so it's going to look terrible, but I think you get the point. Okay, so there is my contour only coffee mug. Like I said, it doesn't have to look good. If you come to your critique next week with this, I'm going to give you an A because you nailed contours. So go ahead and work on that for just a minute. Just do it quick. Don't fix anything. Don't fixate on anything. Just cross contour lines. That's it. Next, we are going to pick a direction. This direction can be up, down, left, right, a diagonal, spiral. It doesn't matter. I want you to pick a direction. Oh, and Joe is doing it with us too. Excellent. Make sure that you can see that. Okay. So just pick a direction. Make a little arrow or something to remind you. I'm going to say That's my direction. So now we're going to fill this area only with marks that move our eye in that direction. And I want you to vary it up. It's not just about saying, okay, squiggle line, squiggle line, squiggle line, everything is going that way. We're going to create, maybe even draw something on the opposite side. And let's just make marks that move in that direction. Try lots of different marks. You can use a different brush if you need. Do some fast, some slow. But everything is moving our eye in that direction. Everything that I do is going to move our eye in that direction. If you need to get a different color so that you can experiment with different marks and you can see it and it's not just becoming all one big, gray blur like what I've got going on here, go for it. Just trying lots of different little things. But everything's moving in that direction. Super simple stuff here. But we do this because it reinforces that in your mind. So the next time you go to paint, whether it's like, let's say Ilya painting that jug that she's been painting a lot of, she wouldn't want to use necessarily brush marks like this on the picture, because that would change the shape of the picture. It would change the vibe. But she'd want to use brush strokes like that, where Annie working on Starry Night is going to be doing something a little more like this, maybe a little bit more structured in her marks, but marks that move in specific directions. Eileen, I know, likes to paint the seascapes quite a lot. And so she probably wouldn't want to do brush marks like this. It's probably going to be more brush marks like this. Same with Tammy with her digital stuff. I imagine there's a lot more kind of, this is just my understanding of what it takes to do the digital stuff. Tammy, if I'm wrong, I apologize. But I imagine the digital stuff is probably a little bit more dotty, I guess. But we can still do that and move in a direction. So, you see a face in the square? In this one, let me look. Did I just paint over it? I'm not seeing it. I probably just painted over it, didn't I? I'm sorry. Okay, let's see. The second one, we are going to practice hard, soft, and broken. Broken, is that what I have? Yeah, broken. Hard, soft, and broken edges. Oh, he got painted over a bit. Sorry about that. And this is important because it reminds you what it takes to make that edge, so that, if, let's say during critique, I say, oh, try using a soft edge in the future for something like this. Then you know how to get a soft edge. So with a hard edge, see how many different ways you can get a hard edge, maybe with the same tool. Try and get the hardest edge you possibly can using the same tool. Let's try it straight up and down. Very, very hard edges. Now soft edges. We're going to get the softest edge we can. Maybe that means you have to put a little more water in your paint, or use less paint, or hold your brush different. Whatever that is. I'm going to try it like this. that brush had way too much going on it. So I need to practice my soft edges. There we go. There's one. Can I get a soft edge using the tip of my brush? Can if I smear it with my finger, which counts. That counts. And then a broken edge. I know I need to dry my brush off to get a good broken edge. Very little paint, very little water, light pressure. And that gives me a very broken edge. What about on the tip of my brush? Can I get broken edges? Yeah. It's a little harder, but yeah, just see all the different ways you can get those broken edges. And try and commit to memory how you achieved that. Like, what did I have to do here to get that soft edge? How did I do that? How did I do this? I think we all know how to make hard edges. That's kind of the default, right? All right. Now, up here, we're going to focus on texture. So I want you to make a brush stroke that feels smooth. What does a smooth brush stroke look like to you? Everybody's idea of what that is probably going to be a little bit different. So if I put down what I consider a smooth brush stroke and you're like, oh, that feels like this or that, that's okay. It's not wrong. So a smooth brush stroke to me it's kind of like that. It's got a little broken edges, but internally it feels very solid. It feels very smooth. What's a brush stroke that feels rough? I like kind of a stab. That feels very rough brush stroke. Hesitant. How would you convey hesitation just through your brush stroke? So for me, hesitation would probably be that feels very hesitant to me. It's afraid to commit. It's afraid to commit to being a line. It's afraid to commit to existing on the page. So that feels hesitant to me. Energetic. And you guys feel free, please, to post these in Discord so we can all kind of see how everyone else interprets the information because we're all going to do it differently. So energetic to me is, I mean, scribbly. I like that feels right there. That feels very energetic to me. So these are the kind of marks that are your personal, what did we call them last week? Visual vocabulary. It's kind of your visual vocabulary of your brush marks. And I just want you to do this so that you get to know those marks that you automatically made or make. Sorry, I looked at a different word while I was talking and blended them together. You may have never done anything like this before, and so you don't know what your visual vocabulary is. You don't know what an energetic brush mark looks like to you or any of that. So while this seems very childish or beginner or very basic, I know that the hesitation can be there to just follow through and do it because that's easy stuff. I want to get to the sexy stuff like color theory. This is, once again, like we talked about last week, this is the basis for everything you do in art. This is your foundation. If your foundation is wobbly, your house is going to fall down, which reminds me of water leaking in through my foundation. Sorry. Hopefully my house doesn't fall down. But if your foundation is shaky, everything else is going to be shaky. If all you do is focus on contour lines and solid lines, everything you do is going to feel very tight. But if that's the look you're going for, that's fine. But just spend some time with this. Figure out what your marks look like and how you can achieve them on command so that you can easily call them up while you're painting. You think, oh, I want this tree to feel like it's like blowing in the wind. Well, instead of just making like a hard line, let's see, we could do a tree that's blowing in the wind like this. Tree branches off to the side because the branches move to the side when it's blowing in the wind. Maybe that says this tree is blowing in the wind. Maybe it says this tree is just growing weird. Instead, maybe we want to say this tree is really blowing in the wind. And when a tree blows in the wind, its little branches are shaking a lot. They're not stopped so that you can see them perfectly. They're kind of, you might catch one, but for the most part, you're going to see something a little bit more like that. This says energy. This says blowing in the wind. This says, ow, my back hurts. Which is also fine if that's what you're trying to convey. Krista says, I know I need to loosen my hands a lot. Also, my hands need to stop shaking. So the gesture painting will more than likely work best with my hands. Okay, you said something really important there. Your hands do not need to stop shaking. Okay? What I hear when people say, my hands shake too much is, this is the only line that I find value in. That's what I hear. I'm sure that's not what you're saying, but that's what I hear. My hands shake. I only find value in these lines. Our styles are made based on who we are and the way our bodies are shaped, the way our bodies move, the way our bodies work or don't work, or all of that. It all becomes part of your style. If your hands shake, let that be part of your style. Discover what you naturally do with your marks and use that. I used to teach paint parties when I owned my art gallery. And there was this guy who came in. He came to so many paint parties. And he had Parkinson's. Well, he still does. He had Parkinson's. And so, I mean, he shook pretty bad. Like, he'd just be standing there talking to me, and his hand would kind of be doing like this. But first of all, he found out that when he was painting, he was able to control it a little bit more, but his hand never stopped shaking, and it became part of his style. That became part of his identifying marks. So I say embrace it. Don't try to force your hand into this. Just like colorblind people. I hear from people who are colorblind so often. They're like, well, I really would love to paint, but I'm colorblind. So what? Paint it the way you see it. That's also part of what painting is. It's expressing your experience of the world, your experience of living. And whether your hand shakes, whether you have to paint with your feet, whether you're colorblind, whether you have 10% vision in one eye, that does not invalidate the marks that you can make, the art that you can make. So, in fact, oh man, I'll have to see if I can find that. A couple years ago, I read an article about a blind woman. who paints 100% blind. I can't remember if she ever had vision or not. Completely blind. And she chose her colors based on the weight of the tubes. Some paints are heavy. Some paints, depending on what's in them. But also each paint has a little bit of a different viscosity. And so she would paint based on the viscosity of the colors that she was using, so that when she was done, she could feel it and she could tell what the colors were and the movement and everything. And that is a valid form of expression. A completely blind person using the senses they have access to make something that shares something about them and their world. You're welcome. Please do embrace it. So many people spend a lot of time trying to get their hand to loosen up, to get away from this and to move into something more like these. So you're already halfway there. Embrace it, girl. Okay. So, does anybody have any questions or anything? I am going to have some homework for you. I will post it. I'll make a download. I'll make a PDF download this time. And that PDF download is going to include this potato looking rock. If you don't like my potato looking rock, then you are free to choose anything else you like, so long as it is very simple. I do not want you getting hung up on proportion, detail, value, nothing like that. So what I want you to do with this rock is I want you to paint it a couple different times, just with two colors. Black and white is fine. I don't want you to paint it, not draw it. But I'm going to ask you to paint it in a kind of like we did with the, what am I talking about? In December, we had like hesitant poinsettia. So how would you paint this rock to make it look hesitant? How would you paint it to make it look energetic? And all of that is going to be through your marks. So I'll just have a couple different prompts. I just want you to pick a 2 or 3 of them and paint those. And then next week, if you're in the art friends, is that what it is? Whatever, the $5 a month level, there won't be a video next week. If you're in the art family, we will be doing a critique. So these potato rocks are going to be critiqued. Don't let that stress you out. Like I said, if you come in and your potato rock looks like this, that might work, depending on, what the prompt was. So, it doesn't have to be beautiful. It just has to show an understanding of our concepts. So that's all I have for today. If nobody has anything else that they want to talk about, then I will probably let you go. I gotta go write up your PDFs. That's the thing with this curriculum is I've got it all outlined, but I still have to write it, and I'm kind of writing it as we go. So it'll just take me a minute. But the good news with this curriculum is next year we can do the exact same curriculum, because it's always going to be taught different. There's always something new to learn, and we can keep some structure going. So anyway, that's all I have today, friends. So I'm going to let you go, and I will talk to you again very soon. So have a great rest of your weekend, and cross your fingers that I get water in my house. Running water in my house tomorrow. Goodbye.